Malaysia's semiconductor industry just hit $36 billion in exports last year, making us the world's 7th largest exporter of chips. And Indonesia? They're not even in the top 20. But semiconductors are just the beginning of a story most people don't know. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My Singapore friend said I wouldn't even reach 100 subscribers, but I believe videos like this deserve to be heard. Help me show him that we Malaysians support each other. Assalamu alaikum. You know how everyone's always talking about Indonesia's massive economy? Their huge population? Their natural resources? Well, here's what they don't tell you. There are 3 critical sectors where Malaysia doesn't just compete with Indonesia. We completely dominate them. And I'm talking about industries worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Let's start with the one that powers your phone right now. Semiconductors. Every time you scroll through TikTok, send a WhatsApp message, or check your banking app, there's a good chance Malaysian technology made that possible. We're not talking about assembling phones here. We're talking about the actual brains of every electronic device you own. Penang alone houses over 50 semiconductor companies. Intel's been there since 1972. That's more than 50 years. They chose Malaysia before they expanded anywhere else in Southeast Asia. AMD, Infineon, Bosch, Texas Instruments. They're all here. Walk through Bayan Lepas Free Industrial Zone and you'll see what I mean. Factories everywhere. These aren't just assembly plants. They're doing advanced packaging, testing, and design work that only a handful of countries in the world can handle. Here's a number that'll surprise you. Malaysia controls about 13% of global semiconductor testing and packaging. 13% of the entire world. Indonesia's share? Less than 1%. And we're not talking about low-value work either. The average semiconductor worker in Malaysia earns significantly more than the national median wage because these are highly skilled jobs. But here's what makes this really interesting. Indonesia's been trying to break into semiconductors for decades. They've offered incentives. They've built industrial parks. President Jokowi made it a priority. But they can't seem to crack the code. Why? Because semiconductors require something Indonesia hasn't built yet. A complete ecosystem. You can't just open a chip factory and expect it to work. You need specialized universities churning out electrical engineers. You need stable power supply that never fluctuates, because even a tiny power surge can destroy millions of ringgit worth of chips. You need ultra-pure water treatment facilities. You need a network of suppliers who can deliver specialty chemicals and gases within hours. You need workers trained in clean room protocols where a single dust particle can ruin everything. Malaysia spent 40 years building this ecosystem. We started small with basic assembly in the 70s. Then we moved up to testing in the 80s. Then packaging in the 90s. Then design in the 2000s. Each step built on the previous one. Indonesia's trying to jump straight to advanced manufacturing without laying the groundwork. It doesn't work that way. And now, with the chip shortage that hit during the pandemic and the US-China tech war, Malaysia's position got even stronger. Companies are desperate to diversify away from China and Taiwan. Where are they looking? Malaysia. Intel just announced they're investing another $7 billion here. $7 billion. In one shot. Sound familiar? That feeling when you've been quietly building something and suddenly everyone notices? That's Malaysia's semiconductor story. But semiconductors are just sector number 1. Let's talk about something even more valuable. Something that literally powers the modern world. Petroleum refining and petrochemical. You probably know Malaysia produces oil and gas. Everyone knows that. But here's what most people miss. We're not just pumping crude oil out of the ground and selling it. We're transforming it into high-value products that the entire region depends on. Penang in Johor. Ever been there? Probably not, because until recently it was just fishing villages. Now it's home to the Penang Integrated Petroleum Complex. This thing cost $27 billion to build. $27 billion. It's one of the largest integrated refinery and petrochemical complexes in Asia. The refinery alone can process 300,000 barrels of crude oil per day. Here's where it gets interesting. Indonesia actually produces way more crude oil than Malaysia. They're OPEC's only Southeast Asian member. They've got huge reserves. So why can't they refine it themselves? They can't build enough refining capacity. Indonesia actually became a net importer of refined petroleum products back in 2004. Think about that. They pump oil out of their own ground, ship it to other countries to be refined, then buy it back as gasoline and diesel. Malaysia, on the other hand, imports crude oil, refines it here, and exports the refined products at a massive profit, including to Indonesia. Petronas, our national oil company, operates multiple refineries across Malaysia. Malacca Refinery, Kerteh, Port Dickson. Combined, we can refine about 1 million barrels per day. But it's not just about volume. It's about what we produce. Malaysia specializes in high-value petrochemicals: polypropylene, polyethylene, ethylene glycol. These are the building blocks of plastics, synthetic fibers, antifreeze, and thousands of other products. The profit margins on petrochemicals are 3 to 5 times higher than basic refined fuel. Indonesia refines oil mainly for domestic fuel consumption. Malaysia refines it and creates products the whole world needs. The Rapid project in Penang, that $27 billion complex I mentioned, it produces petrochemicals that feed industries across Asia. China imports from us. Japan imports from us. South Korea imports from us. These are industrial powerhouses with their own petrochemical industries, and they still need what Malaysia produces. Indonesia keeps trying to build refineries. Every few years there's a new announcement. Grand plans. Big investments. But they keep getting delayed, going over budget, or underperforming. The Tuban refinery in East Java, originally supposed to be finished in 2026, is now delayed to 2028. Maybe. The Belongan refinery keeps having problems. In 2021, it caught fire and had to shut down for months. Why? Same reason as semiconductors. Ecosystem. Running a modern refinery isn't just about building the facility. You need engineers who understand the complex chemistry. You need maintenance crews trained on specific equipment. You need quality control systems that can detect problems instantly. You need logistics networks that can move dangerous chemicals safely. You need environmental controls because one mistake can be catastrophic. Malaysia's been in the refining game since 1963. 60 years of accumulated knowledge. 60 years of training people. 60 years of figuring out what works in tropical climates with monsoons and humidity. You can't just copy that overnight. Remember what I said about semiconductors? About building layer by layer? Same principle here. Malaysia didn't wake up one day with world-class refineries. We built them slowly, learned from mistakes, trained generation after generation of engineers. Indonesia's trying to rush it. But wait until you hear about sector number 3. This one surprised even me when I dug into the numbers. Electrical and electronic products. E&AMP IE, as we call it in the industry. This is huge. Malaysia exported $156 billion worth of E&AMP E products in 2023. $156 billion. That's more than half of our total exports. Indonesia's E&AMP exports? Around $25 billion. We export 6 times more than them, despite having 1/8 their population. What counts as E&AMP E? Everything electronic. Semiconductors, yes, but also computer parts, consumer electronics, industrial electronics, medical devices, automotive electronics, solar panels, LED lights. If it plugs in or runs on batteries, there's a good chance Malaysian workers had something to do with it. Western Digital makes hard drives in Penang. Dyson manufactures their high-end vacuum motors in Johor. Dell has major operations here. HP, Panasonic, Sony, Foxconn. They're all here. Not just screwdriver plants where they assemble imported parts. Real manufacturing with actual value-added processes. Here's an example. Solar panels. Malaysia is the world's third largest producer of solar panels. Third in the entire world. We export solar panels to Europe, America, Australia, the Middle East. The solar farm powering your cousin's house in Australia might be Malaysian panels. The solar installation on that factory in Germany could be from Penang. Indonesia has solar panel manufacturing too, but it's mainly for domestic use. They haven't cracked international markets the way Malaysia has. Why? Quality and reliability. International buyers demand strict standards. They want ISO certifications. They want proven track records. They want suppliers who've been doing this for decades without major failures. Malaysian manufacturers spent years building that reputation. We failed quality tests in the 80s and 90s. Products got rejected. We learned. We improved. We invested in better equipment, better training, better processes. Now when a German company needs solar panels, they trust Malaysian suppliers because we've proven ourselves over 30 years. Indonesia's still building that trust. And in manufacturing, trust takes time. You can offer lower prices, but if buyers worry about reliability, they'll pay more for Malaysian products. Because a failed solar panel means warranty claims, unhappy customers, damaged reputation. Nobody wants that risk. The automotive electronics sector shows this even more clearly. Modern cars are basically computers on wheels. Engine control units, infotainment systems, sensors, cameras, electric vehicle batteries. Malaysia manufactures critical components for Toyota, Honda, BMW, Mercedes. These are companies that absolutely will not compromise on quality because a faulty component could mean recalls affecting millions of vehicles. Infineon's automotive chip factory in Kulim supplies car manufacturers worldwide. Bosch's facility in Penang produces automotive sensors. These aren't commodity products. These are high-precision components where failure isn't an option. Indonesia doesn't compete in this space at all. They assemble some cars for domestic sale, but the high-value electronics? They import them, often from Malaysia. And here's where it all comes together. These three sectors, semiconductors, petroleum refining, and E&E, they're not separate. They feed each other. The petrochemical industry produces materials that electronics manufacturers need. The semiconductor industry creates chips that go into electronic products. The expertise in one sector transfers to others. Engineers move between industries, bringing knowledge with them. This is what economists call industrial clustering. When related industries concentrate in one place, they create synergies. A supplier can serve multiple customers in the same area. Universities tailor programs to industry needs. Workers develop specialized skills. Standards emerge. Best practices spread. The whole becomes greater than the sum of parts. Penang's not just a semiconductor hub. It's a complete electronics ecosystem. You need a specialized component? There's probably a supplier within 30 minutes. You need engineers? Universities right there are graduating them. You need to prototype something? Local workshops can help. You need to ship products? Ports nearby. Everything connects. Indonesia tried creating industrial zones, but they couldn't achieve the same density of expertise. Their islands are spread out. Jakarta's on Java, but manufacturing might be in Sumatra or Kalimantan. Moving parts and people between islands adds cost and time. Malaysia's concentrated geography helps. From Penang to Johor is just a drive down the Plus Highway. Here's something else. Language. Most of Malaysia's engineers speak English fluently. That matters enormously. When a Japanese company wants to set up a factory, their engineers need to communicate with local staff. When an American company sends specifications, Malaysian engineers can read them without translation. Indonesia's English proficiency is lower. That's not a criticism, it's just reality. And in global manufacturing, communication failures cost money. Political stability plays a role too. Malaysia's had the same basic economic policies for decades. Pro-business, pro-foreign investment, export-oriented. Governments change, but the overall direction stays consistent. Companies planning investments worth billions of dollars need that predictability. They're looking 20, 30 years ahead. Indonesia's politics can be more volatile. Regulations change. Priorities shift. That uncertainty makes companies hesitant. But here's what Indonesia does have. A massive domestic market. Their 280 million people create enormous opportunities for consumer goods, retail, services, food, basically anything targeting local consumers. Indonesia dominates Southeast Asia in e-commerce, ride-hailing, fintech, consumer apps. They're building impressive digital infrastructure. Their tech startups raise billions. So it's not that Indonesia's economy is weak. It's just focused differently. They're building for internal consumption. Malaysia's building for global exports. Different strategies, different strengths. Neither is wrong. They're just playing different games. But in these three specific sectors, semiconductors, petroleum refining, and e-products, Malaysia's 40-year head start created advantages that are really hard to overcome. We built the expertise, the infrastructure, the reputation, the relationships. And now, with global supply chains shifting and companies looking for alternatives to China, Malaysia's positioned perfectly. So next time someone talks about Indonesia's huge economy, remember this. Size isn't everything. Malaysia's $373 billion economy punches way above its weight in sectors that matter for the future. High-tech manufacturing, advanced materials, precision electronics. The things that power modern life. 3 sectors. Quiet dominance. That's Malaysia's story. And honestly, we're just getting started. With all the new investments coming in, the next 10 years look even more promising. If this changed how you see Malaysia's economy, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment telling me which sector surprised you most. And share this with someone who still thinks Indonesia's economy overshadows ours in every way. Sometimes the quiet achievers make the biggest impact. Malaysia